Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the podcast. Things are a little different this week. We are rolling with audio only this week, no video. It is Thanksgiving week, and we've had to make some adjustments on the fly, but it's important to me to get an episode out this week, and really the only option is audio only. So I hope that's okay with you. We're still going to have a great show. You just don't get to see my pretty face. But anyways, it is Thanksgiving week. We are very excited about that. I mean, that is probably one of my favorite holidays. And I know for sure, it's the one day a year where you eat until you are just absolutely embarrassed. At least I do. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. That's how I roll on Thanksgiving. I'm deep frying a turkey tomorrow. I can't wait to do that. For those of you that have never had a deep fried turkey, I feel bad for you. I feel like you're missing out on life if you haven't had a deep fried turkey. It is amazing. It beats the shit out of baked turkeys, without question. And then you have all the sides, stuffing and green. I think my wife's making green bean casserole. Deviled eggs, macaroni and cheese. There's also going to be baked turkeys. We're going over to some friend's house, and we're going to tear up their house instead of tearing up ours. But it's going to be a good time. We look forward to it. And, of course, there's always Thanksgiving Day football. And I'll get into my football picks here in a little bit. I will also address the elephant in the room, which is the Eagles-Cowboys game. That was painful. That was hard to have to stomach. But I'll talk more about that later. But let's just get right into it, shall we? It's time for some coffee and catching up, as we always do. I'm drinking my coffee. You can't see it, but I'm drinking it out of my Iron Maiden mug today. Because I love me some Iron Maiden. They're one of the all-time great rock bands out there. And you know what? This is an interesting question I was thinking about. If you could only listen to one band for the rest of your life, what band would that be? For me, personally, I think it would be Iron Maiden. Now, they're not necessarily my favorite band of all time, but they meet all the wickets of what I look for in variety of hard rock, heavy metal, however you want to define it. And I think, that would be the band for me. If they said, hey, you get one band forever, who is it? It would probably be Iron Maiden. So that's something for you to ponder, something for you to think about. What would be your band if you could only listen to one forever? Who would it be? Let me know in the comments. It's been a pretty chill week. Last Friday when the episode dropped, we had a pretty relaxed day. We didn't really do much of anything. There was nothing on our schedule. Usually we always try and do something on Friday evenings. When it was still daylight past 5:30, we went to the driving range, and then we'd go grab a bite to eat or something. But obviously we can't do that anymore with the daylight savings time nonsense. So we just hung out. It was chill. Saturday, it was it's like straight out of old school, right? The wife and I went food shopping. We went to this Christmas market or Christmas fair. I'm not even sure how you'd word that or what it's called. Christmas. We live in a small town, and the town next to us is also a small town. And every year they do small town things, like they close down Main Street and they do a little Christmas festival. And it's they have vendors set up in tents all the way up and down Main Street. And, it's pretty cool. You can stop into these little Christmas stores, see this, see that, see all the random shit that people sell that has nothing to do with Christmas. But, it's always a good time. We went with a couple friends of ours. And then after that, we went and grabbed some dinner there in Smithfield at Wharf Hill. And Wharf Hill is an amazing establishment. It's kind of like an English pub vibe. Really good food, good beer, and overall great atmosphere. So if you're local to the area, I highly encourage you to check that place out if you've never eaten there. Again, that's Wharf Hill. Sunday was our usual round of golf. We teed off early. I think we teed off just before 1 o'clock, which is early for us. But it was a good day, you know. We had a great warm-up session. We got there actually a few hours early. Well, let me backtrack. Sunday morning we went down. A friend of ours was running the Norfolk Half Marathon, her first half marathon ever. And so we went down and surprised her at the finish line. And that was very cool. It was very cool to see her not quit and finish the race. And she did a great job. So good job, Audrey. We're all proud of you for that. And from there, we went over to the golf course. We ended up getting there like 2 hours early. So we were on the range. We just took our time, worked our way through a couple buckets of balls. And that's the time, honestly, when you want to tinker with your swing. Right? You don't want to be out on the course having swing thoughts, trying to change something mid-round. So the range is obviously the perfect place for that. I like to tinker around with trying to hit. I'm not necessarily good enough to play fades and draws, but when I'm on the range, I do like to try. And so we did that. We practiced for about an hour and a half, hit some pitch shots, chip shots, did a little putting, and then we teed off. And, you know, my goal lately has been to card no sixes in a round. That's been my goal the past few weeks. As of last Friday's episode, I was 0 for 3. And I'm happy to tell you that I am now 0 for 4. I came out guns a-blazing and double bogeyed the first hole. And I hit a really good drive. But I pulled it just a hair left and it found the fairway bunker. I had to splash out of there. I hit a horrendous pitch shot and left that short of the green, chipped on and missed my bogey putt. So a 6 double bogey right out of the gate, and that was that for carding no sixes. Having said that, I ended up playing incredibly well. Like I said, I double bogeyed the first hole. I bogeyed the second hole, which is a pretty tough par 3. And honestly, bogey on that hole is not exactly a terrible score because the green is incredibly difficult. It slopes from front to back. And it's just a tough hole. So getting a 4 on that's not necessarily the end of the world. 5 is what you want to avoid there because it's got bunkers on both sides of the green. But I started 3 over after 2 holes. And then I just went lights out. You know, as a 6 handicap, I played the next 7 holes in 2 under par, which is ridiculous. I mean, I was just playing way above my pay grade. I had 3 birdies, a bogey, and 3 pars on the closing 7 holes. So I ended up with a 1 over 37. My wife once again broke 60 for the second time. And that's awesome because, again, as a beginning golfer, breaking 60 is a big deal. It's a huge deal. And the fact that we've only played maybe 9 or 10 rounds and she's now broken 60 twice, I think says a lot about how she's advancing in the game. And she just continues to get better week in and week out. And probably the greatest thing I saw was not anything I did. It had nothing to do with me or my score or any shot I hit. The best thing I saw Sunday was a shot that she hit on the 9th hole that just showed how smart she's becoming with the game of golf. And I'll explain it. So the 9th hole it's pretty wide open. It's a dogleg right, somewhat of a dogleg right, with a huge fairway bunker that comes in from the right, which is what makes it dogleg. And then it's got a tiny fairway bunker on the left that's not really in play unless you pull the ball. But that fairway bunker on the right is straight away off the tee. The fairway kind of angles left and then angles back to the right towards the green. So that's why you got to navigate that fairway bunker, which from the white tees to clear it, it's probably 235 carry. Nothing crazy. I mean, nothing too crazy. You still got to hit a good shot. From her tees, it's probably 170, 180 to clear it. Well, she hit her drive, and she pushed it a little right, so she ended up just short of the bunker. Now, what makes this a tough shot is that fairway bunker, as a lot of them are, the back side of the bunker is low and runs right off the fairway into the bunker. The front of the bunker has a high lip. So normally if you get into that bunker, more often than not, you're not going to be able to get to the green because you can't hit enough club to clear the lip. So anyways, she was short of the bunker, and she probably still had, it was like 150 or 160 in, I can't remember. So she would normally hit her 3-wood. The problem is she sometimes gets her 3-wood in the air, and sometimes she doesn't. And that's okay, because 9 times out of 10, she advances the ball well with it. It's just sometimes it squirts out a little low, more like a line drive, and sometimes she gets it up. So I didn't even think about it. I just thought, okay, she's going to grab her 3-wood and go for it. I didn't say anything. I didn't try and coach her. I just sat in the cart, minding my business. But what she did is what really impressed me. As a beginning golfer, she used a sound, smart strategy. She got out of the cart, without hesitation, grabbed her pitching wedge, went over, hit her ball about 50 or 60 yards down the fairway, well over the bunker, and went about her business. And the reason that's just so impressive is because most beginners don't think like that. They don't think about minimizing mistakes like that. She could have very easily done what she always does from that distance, which is 3-wood, especially from the fairway. But she knew that her first goal, her number one priority was get the ball over the bunker. And so she did that. And I just couldn't have been more impressed with that. That was such a smart golf shot. And, she took a big number out of play because she could have easily hit a line drive into the face of the bunker or topped it into the bunker or done any number of things. I mean, she could have gotten her 3-wood over the bunker. But she went with the smart shot. And, I was very proud of her for that. And so, good job, babe. I'm very proud of you for that shot. And she played, like I said, exceptionally well. She ended up with 59. Couple missed putts here and there. Honestly, it would have been 56 or 57. Her low round is 57. So she was tracking for her low round. 1 or 2 more putts drop and we're there. So, but anyways, that's coffee and catching up. That's been the past week so far. And like I said, we're into Thanksgiving week. And, tomorrow's going to be a great day. By the time you hear this episode, I'm going to be very fat and very happy. Okay, let's just get right into this first segment. This week's edition of Check This Shit Out. And good news, it's not about me. I did not get robbed this past weekend. So that's a great thing. I still haven't replaced my golf shoes, and you know what? I don't know if I'm going to. I have been playing golf this past week in my CrossFit shoes. I have 2 pairs of the Rich Froning Reeboks, and I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of playing golf in them. And I don't know if I'm going to buy new golf shoes. I might, that's to be determined because I haven't played in wet grass yet. So I might change my thinking the first time I slip in wet grass. But until then, I think I'm just going to roll with what I got and see what happens. So, to the asshole woman who took it upon herself to get in my truck and take my golf shoes, you might have done me a favor. I'm not sure. We'll see. Anyways, so for this week's segment of Check This Shit Out, I stumbled onto a news story that absolutely creeps me the fuck out. For those of you that know me, they know that I'm not a fan of spiders at all. I mean, honestly, who is? Like, why would you have a liking to spiders? Now, if I see spiders outside, I leave them alone. I don't kill them. Because I know they do help with insects, mosquitoes, stuff like that. But if you're a spider in my house, or in my car, truck, whatever, you're dead. You're dead. I can't have that. That is absolutely, they gross me out. And I know that they say, oh, there's really no spider species in America other than maybe the black widow and brown recluse that you really, really need to be worried about. But do we know that for sure? I don't trust it. So therefore they have to die. But anyways, having said that, I came across a news article, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but I had to share it with you. These researchers on the Greece-Albanian border came across a cave that's called the Sulphur Cave. And inside this cave, they discovered a spider web that was over 106 meters in size. Ladies and gentlemen, 106 square meters is about half the size of a tennis court. So from the end line to basically the net, and about that wide. Think about that. And I'm not talking about they saw spider web here, spider web there, and they were all kind of close to each other, maybe connected at the no. They found one mega spider web. And apparently it was built and hosted 111,000 spiders from 2 different species. So, like, so many questions, right? I have so many questions for these psychopaths that are in this cave doing this math. One, how? Why? How big are your balls that you can go into that cave, and once you've discovered this web, you don't immediately turn and vacate the premises? No. You stay there and you study it. And you get in it. And I get it. This count, 111,000 spiders. I know that's a rough estimate. They probably counted so many in a certain area and did the math from there. But what are we doing? And they somehow realized that all 111,000 of these come from 2 different species. So, like, there is effort here from these researchers. Now, I'm assuming they were looking for spiders. Otherwise, how would they know this? What kind of researchers were they? I'm guessing they're whatever that profession is called, psychopath. But, and the crazy thing is that these are 2 species of spider that normally live alone. So, for some reason, they've combined forces and built one giant spider web, which leads me to my next question. What the hell are you trying to catch with a tennis court? Ugh. I mean, it absolutely freaks me out. According to the article, scientists call this a spider megacity. An underground an underground metropolis of arachnids living in complete darkness, not relying on sunlight, but on alternate ecosystems, microbes, or cave-specific food chains. All right, so to add nightmare fuel to this story, they're already in a pitch dark cave, which means they discovered this with flashlights. So can you imagine? Hopefully you didn't walk into it. Oh my God. I think we can all raise our hand and say yes to a moment in time where you've just been out walking or jogging, or you've been riding your bike on a trail and you've walked through a singular tiny spider web. And when that happens, all of a sudden you're a 3rd degree black belt in karate. Am I right? I know I'm right. I surprise the shit out of myself every time I walk through a spider web at some of the kung fu moves that I know. So hopefully they didn't find this by walking into it. But can you imagine catching a glimpse of it with your flashlight? And you're like, hey bro, watch out. Spider web. But then you keep panning over with your flashlight and the spider web just keeps going. Why are you not backing out? Why are you not getting the hell out of that cave as quickly as you got into it? It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And the fact that, again, they stayed there and they did the research and did all this math and whatever. Oh, God. I would die. Dude, I would die. You'd have to leave me there. I don't like caves to begin with. I'm a little claustrophobic. So that is just 1,000% the things that nightmares are made of. And it really freaks me out just thinking about it. I can't imagine being one of those researchers and finding that. I mean, they might have thought they were in hog heaven, that they won the lottery. And good for you. But in my humble opinion, you're a psychopath. So, but you can find this online, read it for yourself. I just thought it'd be fun to share it because it just blew my mind that there are spiders out there that feel like they need a tennis court to catch dinner. So that's this week's Check This Shit Out. Check your covers, check your shoes, sleep with one eye open, sleep with your mouth closed. We don't want to swallow anything. All right, let's get into my new favorite segment, the NFL Weekly Pick'ems. After I did this last week, I've been looking forward to it all week. Looking back at last week, I ended up going 10-4. Not crazy. Yeah, well, actually, not too bad. I thought I lost more than I really did, but obviously I lost the Philadelphia game, and I'm going to dive into that here shortly. But the one that I kind of was hoping I was going to lose, which was the Kansas City Chiefs-Indianapolis game, I picked the Chiefs to win because it was the smart pick. And unfortunately, they did not disappoint me. They beat the Colts. It was a good game, but still, it would have been nice to have taken that loss, and the Colts won. But Buffalo got beat by Houston. Like, what the hell, man? Buffalo, Josh Allen, he went from 6 total touchdowns the week before to nothing against Houston. So I totally whiffed on that one. Like I said, I lost the Philadelphia game. I lost the Saints game. I mean, Atlanta beat them. That was a toss-up. I only picked New Orleans because they were playing at New Orleans. If they had been playing at Atlanta, I would have picked Atlanta. So, and then Carolina surprised me. I thought San Francisco was going to beat them. But, again, I thought Carolina was going to beat San Francisco. But turns out Brock Purdy and the 49ers showed up on Monday and pretty easily beat Carolina. So, again, 10-4, not a bad start. So let's move on to Week 13. This is always a great week in the NFL because it's Thanksgiving week. So you have football Thursday, Friday. You have college on Saturday. Then you have more football Sunday and Monday. So it's just hard to beat. It's a great week for it. So let's get into it. Tomorrow, Turkey Day, as is tradition, Detroit and Dallas always have games on Thanksgiving, as we've come to watch over the years. Detroit is at home against Green Bay. So this is a divisional matchup. I'm picking Detroit. I think, obviously now, full disclosure, by the time you guys hear this podcast, this game will have already happened. But for the record, I'm picking Detroit. I think little Thanksgiving Day magic, Jared Goff at home. Again, this is one of those scenarios where if they were playing at Lambeau Field, I would probably pick Green Bay. But since they're at Detroit, I'm going Detroit over Green Bay. I'm going to skip Dallas, Kansas City for now. I'm going to come back to that. Baltimore and Cincinnati at Baltimore. Supposedly Joe Burrow's playing. Now, I don't know if I like that strategy, given the fact that he's coming off that injury and they're 3-8 and they have one of the worst defenses in football, and their offensive line is not great, obviously, the reason he's getting hurt so much. But even still, I've got Baltimore winning that one. I don't know if Lamar's playing. I think he is, but all right. Friday, Chicago at Philadelphia. Now, before the season started, I would not honestly have really thought too much about this game, given the Bears' recent history. Having said that, they are 8-3 and playing lights out football. Like I said last week, their offense is ranked 4th in the league, and they're just crushing it. And I'll go back to what I said about New England having a new coaching staff and the Bears also having a new coaching staff. I mean, you take Ben Johnson, who was Detroit's offensive coordinator last year, and their high-powered offense. He goes and he becomes the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Now all of a sudden they have a high-powered offense. So you do the math on that. And actually, I'm going to bring this up later as well when I talk about the Eagles and their offensive struggles. But again, same talent, different coaching staff. You see the difference. Having said that, they're at Philadelphia. And yes, we're coming off that painful loss to Dallas. And yes, I've got some things to say about our offense. But I don't think our defense is going to have too much issue with Chicago, hopefully. So I've got the Birds, of course. I'm always going to pick the Birds, so this is kind of a waste of time for you all. But I've got the Birds winning at home on Friday over the Bears. All right, Sunday, 49ers at Cleveland. You know what? I'm rolling with Cleveland on this one. I'm a fan of their defense. I said that last week. Shedeur Sanders started last week and really didn't have that bad of a game. He might have a future if they can keep him healthy. And Brock Purdy likes to throw interceptions. So I've got Cleveland over the 49ers. Jacksonville at Tennessee. I didn't think Jacksonville was going to have that much issue with Arizona, but they barely beat them. And Seattle didn't exactly thump Tennessee last week, so Tennessee played better than I thought they would. This game's at Tennessee, but I've got Jacksonville winning. Houston at Indianapolis. I think the Colts rebound. I think they rebound at home nicely. I think they shut Houston down, and they walk away with the W there. New Orleans at Miami. I mean, Miami. These are just two terrible teams. Miami's in disarray. Somehow they win a few games here and there, but I've got them winning this game. Again, because it's a home game for Miami, and the Saints are just that bad. Atlanta at the New York Jets. I'm going with the Jets, Jets. You know, they're so bad you want to root for them. So, as bad as that sounds, I think they have one win this year. I mean, they are just not good. Maybe two. So I've got the Jets over Atlanta. Arizona at Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going to play with a little fire under their ass. They're at home. They kind of took a beating out in L.A. last week. I'm sure Baker Mayfield is fired up and ready to go. So I got the Buccaneers over the Cardinals. Rams at Carolina. You know what? I'm just going to say it, especially after the Eagles lost last Sunday at Dallas. I think the Rams are the team to beat in the NFC right now. They've definitely got one of the best offenses. They've got a pretty good defense. And let's face it, we don't block that field goal. They beat us at Philly earlier in the year. So right now, as it stands, I think the road to the Super Bowl for the NFC goes through the Los Angeles Rams. So Rams over Carolina at Carolina. Minnesota at Seattle. This will be a good one because Seattle's quarterback played for Minnesota last year. So this is kind of a revenge game. And I've got Seattle beating them. And I think they're going to beat them pretty handily. I think Darnold's going to have a big game against his old team. Buffalo at Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure Buffalo's coming off 2 straight losses now, and not good ones. I mean, is any loss a good loss? But I think Josh Allen is going to be a little pissed off in this game. And, you know, again, to my dad and my brother, I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers or no Aaron Rodgers, I think Buffalo goes into Pittsburgh. And I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But I think they come out on top. Vegas at the Los Angeles Chargers. I got the Chargers winning. Vegas, I don't really think too much of them. The Chargers they should be better than they are, but it is what it is. They've run into a buzzsaw of a division. Usually it's the Chiefs dominating that division, but now they have to contend with Denver as well. So I've got the Chargers winning at home against Las Vegas. Denver at Washington. Denver's just a great football team all around. Bo Nix is playing like a grizzled seasoned veteran. And that's a guy that I would be 100% confident in to give the ball for a game-winning drive with under 2 minutes left. So I've got Denver over Washington, who at 3-8 is shocking. Because after the season they had last year, and I know they've had some injuries, obviously, but after the season they had last year, and, you know, yeah, we beat the shit out of them in the NFC Championship game, but they made it to the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback and a new head coach. And I thought this year they were going to be a problem, a huge problem, but they're just not. So maybe next year for them. But anyways, I got Denver over Washington. The Monday night game, Giants at New England. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. I think New England's one of the best teams in the AFC. They're one of the best teams in football right now. Big part of that is their head coach. And I've got them winning easily over the Giants at home. Now, back to what I think is the game of the week. Kansas City Chiefs at Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a ginormous game. Huge game. It's a must-win for both teams. This is essentially a win or go home game. Kansas City, should they lose, still has an outside chance at the playoffs. Dallas, if they lose this one, I think their season's over. I don't think they're making the playoffs. They could. But man, they could not lose another game. So I've got, and you guys know, I've made it clear on so many levels, I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs. I definitely don't like the Dallas Cowboys. And while I always root for Kansas City to lose, this week against Dallas, I'm all in on the Chiefs. I need them to go into Dallas and just shut Dak Prescott down. And I want Pat Mahomes to do Pat Mahomes things. Even that silly-ass walk he does when he's calling for a huddle where he wiggles his fingers and he walks like a toddler who didn't wipe his ass good. Even though all of that shit annoys me and I'm just not a fan of the Chiefs, you can't deny Patrick Mahomes' greatness because he's a great quarterback. And you can't deny the success they've had. And Andy Reid will be in the Hall of Fame as a head coach. So I see Kansas City balling up and just smashing Dallas with everything they've got. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think I've got Kansas City pulling this one out and essentially ending Dallas' season. Again, they can still make the playoffs, but if Dallas loses, and I hope they do, their season's essentially over. And they can blame their defense for that. But anyways, that is this week's Pick'ems. Again, please do not bet money on anything that I say, any picks that I make. These are my picks. These are picks that I just, again, right off the rip, I see the game and I basically have my decision made. Some of the games I think about, who's who's starting, is their quarterback hurt, but for the most part, I'm just going off the rip. So again, do not place monetary value wagers on anything I'm saying because it will not be my fault. It will be yours. I mean, I did go 10-4, and that's a good week, but don't do it. Coming off of the NFL Weekly Pick'ems, I thought that we would dive a little deeper into what I think is the train wreck that is the Philadelphia Eagles offense right now. Now, we have all these weapons, and we do score points. But the problem is, we don't score the points when we need to score them. So a great example of that is this past Sunday. We're at Dallas. We're already stressed out. It's Dallas week. We're wearing our Kelly green on the road for the first time in 30 years, which just looked amazing in that stadium. And we come out hot. A.J. Brown, touchdown. Jalen Hurts, touchdown. We score a third touchdown. We're up 21-0. I mean, we are in top gear, foot on the gas. We go into halftime down 21 or up 21-7. So my logic there is, all right, keep your foot on the gas. It's only a matter of time before Dallas scores some points. Their offense is just too good. Even against our defense. And I thought our defense actually ended up playing pretty well. It's hard to stop that offense. But all we had to do was go out and win the second half. We won the first half. So essentially, we go into the second half with a 14-point buffer. So just score more points than them in the second half. Or even score the same amount. If they scored 21 points in the second half and we scored 21 points in the second half, guess what? We still win the game. But we didn't do that. We came out and we went into that typical Philadelphia Eagle try not to lose mentality. Our last 8 possessions, we got 7 first downs. As a matter of fact, the only offensive stat in the NFL that the Eagles are in first place in is 3 and outs. And I'm sorry, but I think a lot of that falls on the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. I mean, it is just painful week in and week out to watch the Birds do the same thing on offense right? It's like the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's where we're at with this offense. And it's not like we don't have the plays. Clearly we have the plays. We have the designs. That's how we scored 21 points against Dallas. They could not stop us in the first 2 quarters. But you don't see those plays get called in the second half. You see these chicken shit up the middle runs. You know, what are we doing? We play not to lose. And we've all seen it. We've all seen that when Philadelphia, in the past, not this year, but in the past, when our back was against the wall, we would put a drive together and put some points on the board because we knew we had to. We just can't do that this year. And so I went back and I was looking. And this is why I think the offensive coordinator is the problem. And I think he has to relinquish his play calling duties. I'm not saying the guy doesn't know football. And I'm not saying that he might not have an insane, complicated offensive system that he wants to run. But I don't think he knows how to call plays and be aggressive and change on the fly. From the outside looking in, it's like he gets into this mode where his system, his plan gets shut down and he doesn't know how to adjust. So instead of adjusting, we keep going out and we keep running the same things that the defense knows we're going to run. Every team studies film. Every team knows every team's characteristics. These formations generally lead to this type of play. This guy goes in motion here. This play's probably coming. They know that. They know how to adjust to it. But our guy, I don't think he knows how to adjust when he's getting shut down. But anyways, I went back and I did some homework here. And I'm going to go back to 2022 until now. And you let me know, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, right, dead wrong, I don't know what I'm saying. But tell me if this maths to you. 2022, we went to the Super Bowl. That was the year we lost to the Chiefs, right? Good game. It was a great game, actually. Starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Our running back was Miles Sanders. He was our starting running back. We had a couple, but A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith were our wide receivers, and Dallas Goedert was our starting tight end. So for the rest of this conversation, we're going to call that our talent pool. That was our talent pool on offense. Hurts, Sanders, Brown, Smith, Goddard. Shane Steichen was our offensive coordinator, and we had an insanely good offense. And as happens a lot of the times, if you're a great offensive coordinator and there's coaching vacancies, head coaching vacancies, they come looking for you. And after the Super Bowl, he went on and he got hired by the Indianapolis Colts, and he's now and still the Indianapolis Colts head coach. And, oh, by the way, who's one of the best teams in football right now? The Indianapolis Colts. Who has one of the most high-powered offenses in football? The Indianapolis Colts. Okay, so there's 2022. So, going into 2023, same talent pool, minus the running back. Now it's DeAndre Swift, who is a hell of a running back. We moved on from Sanders. Now we have Swift. Same talent pool around him. Hurts, Brown, Smith, and Goddard. But our new offensive coordinator is a guy named Brian Johnson, who gets promoted from within. He's already on the Eagles staff. I think he was the quarterback's coach or something like that. He gets bumped up to the offensive coordinator position. And our offense is horrendous. Predictable. I'm going to steal a word from Alex Smith, who said it the other day on NFL Sunday Countdown. Rudimentary. All right? Just your basic plain Jane offense of zone reads and basic route concepts, which you cannot get away with in the NFL. You can for a few series, but then the defense makes adjustments and you're done. So that whole year, that was the year we collapsed, right? We did start 10-1 somehow because our offense was not great. Our defense was mediocre, and then our defense just went to shit and was one of the worst in football. As a matter of fact, I think it ended up 31st or 32nd. So that whole year, we're calling for Brian Johnson to be relieved of his duties. And you know what? I'm not trying to get people fired. I don't want to see that. But there is a way to say, hey, brother, you keep scheming up things, but you're not going to be calling the plays anymore. It's just not working out. But they didn't do that. We suffered through that the whole year. And we got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. We started 10-1 and lost every regular season game after that. I think we ended on a 6-game losing streak, and then we got bounced in the first round of the playoffs by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that was when Jason Kelce retired. He didn't retire because of that, but that's kind of a shitty way for a Hall of Fame center to go out, to lose basically 7-8 games in a row. And lo and behold, after the season, it's like, all right, maybe we need to make some changes. And so Brian Johnson gets dismissed. And we bring in Kellen Moore, who is one of the best offensive minds in football. Was the offensive coordinator down in Dallas for a few years. Had great success down there. So we bring him in. And that's when we bring in Vic Fangio, who is one of, if not the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. So last year, 2024, our talent pool is Hurts, Saquon. We signed Saquon Barkley from the Giants, which is just a ridiculous sign. I can't believe the Giants let him go, for starters. Furthermore, I can't believe they let him go to a team in their own conference. But we get Saquon, Brown, Smith, Goddard. So that's our talent pool. Now we've got Kellen Moore running the offense. And our offense is ridiculous. I mean, explosive play after explosive play, foot on the gas at all times. Saquon ended up rushing for over 2,000 yards. Hurts had a career year. Brown and Smith were out of control with yards after the catch and receptions and all this. So now we go to the Super Bowl and we embarrass the Kansas City Chiefs. Embarrass. Like it wasn't even a game. Don't let the final score fool you. I think they scored 14 of their points against our second-string defense in the Super Bowl. That's how bad we beat them. So, again, the season's over. And like I said, head coaching vacancies, they go after big-ticket, hot offensive or defensive coordinators. So Kellen Moore gets hired away to the New Orleans Saints. So what do the Eagles do? For this year, they don't go out and get another highly sought-after offensive coordinator that needs a job. Nope. They do the same thing like they did with Brian Johnson. They promote from within, and they bump Kevin Patullo up to the offensive coordinator position. Our talent pool is exactly the same as it was last year. Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, Goddard. And our offense is back to being rudimentary, elementary. Pick a basic word. That's what our offense is. It's predictable. Our route running is predictable. Our play calling is predictable. And defenses are eating it up. Yeah, like I said, if we start fast, we can put some points on the board. But then defenses make adjustments and they shut it down. But we don't know how to make adjustments. And we just keep trying to call the same shit series after series after series. And look, I don't care how good our defense is. We have a stellar defense. It's one of the best in football. But week in and week out, you can't just ask those guys to throw goose eggs up on the other team. they're going to get scored on. Big plays are going to happen. Especially against a team like Dallas, where, Dak Prescott gets to throw the ball to George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. 2 wide receivers that are basically uncoverable. Now, I will say that Adoree Jackson has to take a lot of the heat for our defense giving up those points. Because that dude, I don't know what, we have Quinyon Mitchell on one side, who's a shutdown cornerback, and then Adoree Jackson on the other side, who just gets beat every play. I think George Pickens had 8 targets and 8 catches. And I think all 8, Adoree Jackson was covering him. It's bad. It's bad. And, of course, Nick Sirianni, being the good head coach that he is, he gets up in front of the media and he talks about how, hey, this is on me. We got to do better in all facets of the game. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the responsibility falls on me. Well, I agree with you, Coach, but at some point, you're going to have to pull this guy aside and be like, hey, brother, this shit ain't working. If you don't fix it, I'm going to have to fix it. They've got it. And I'm not saying Petula is not a great offensive mind, but we don't know that because he won't keep his foot on the gas and adjust and say, you know what, I don't care that we just scored 21 points. I want 42 times we've got the fucking ball. But they just don't do that. They get conservative. They call plays and, hey, maybe we'll break one and that'd be great. No, you should be trying to step on every single person's throat every single play and put that ball in the end zone. But, again, I go back to what I said earlier about coaching. The Bears last year, their head coach was Matt Eberflus, and they were awful. Awful. They bring in Brian Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator at Detroit, and he's taken their offense and he's turned them into a playoff caliber football team. Mike Vrabel led the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs 3 straight years, and for some odd reason, management decided they're not going to keep him. And so, he was out at Tennessee. The Patriots had Jared Mayo last year, and they were one of the worst teams in football. They bring in Mike Vrabel, and now they're one of the best football teams. Same talent pool. Like the Bears, same talent pool. Like the Eagles, same talent pool. But what's the common denominator here? The coaching. It's not the talent. I mean, if you want anarchy and mutiny, sure, Hurts could go out there and just say, I'm calling the plays, and change the plays on the fly. And maybe he does sometimes. I don't know. But he seems like the kind of guy that is the good dude and the good soldier. And he definitely seems like the kind of guy that where he might be pissed off, but he's not going to let anybody see it on the field. My hope is that Monday morning when they got back to Philly, or Tuesday whenever they had to report back to the team facilities for the first practice, my hope is that he had a nice long chat with Nick Sirianni about the play calling. I don't think he did. But man, something's got to change. Because I don't care how good our defense is. We do not have the offense to go deep into the playoffs. And if we run into the Los Angeles Rams again, or by some miracle Dallas makes a wild card, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big problem. So my hope at the end of this rant, I'm always going to love my birds, and I'm always going to root for my birds, and I'm always going to believe that they can win. But they're going to have to change something. It's not the talent. It's not the talent. They need, and again, I don't want anybody to lose their job. I'm not saying you got to fire Kevin Patullo. But Nick Sirianni needs to step up and let that man know that maybe this week, right? They've got the Bears at home. I'd give him a half. If I don't see anything in the half, if you don't start showing me something, you're no longer going to be calling our plays. Because we're getting late into the year, and we don't need another losing skid like we had a couple years ago. We got too much talent for that. And everybody loves to talk about how the Eagles implode. Even when we were 10-1. Even this year. Up until last week before we lost to Dallas. We're 8-2, the number 1 seed in the NFC. And all the big sports personalities still shit on us. Because of the inner locker room turmoil. And I just don't think Sirianni helps matters too much when he gets in front of the press and he just downplays everything. You got to fix it. You got to fix it, Coach. But that's the end of that. I want to stop ranting about that. Just demote him. Don't fire him. Demote him. But that's all I got for that. Go Birds! All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we finally reached our last segment of the day. This has been kind of different, recording without a camera, doing audio only. I realize now that this is going to be a very long episode. I guess I tend to ramble more when I'm not on video. Not sure why, but hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully you stick around for the whole thing. But for this last segment, we're just going to talk about a little bit of golf, and then I'm going to get out of here. But I was thinking, when you're having a bad day on the course, do you have a go-to shot? And I get it. Maybe some skill levels, it's like, look, man, I'm just trying to hit the fucking ball. And I totally understand that, and I'm not knocking you for it. But just in case, do you have a go-to shot? And what I mean is, do you have a shot that when your swing is just in trouble, right? Like, we've all had those days. I mentioned it a few weeks ago where, you show up to the course and it's like you've never held a golf club. Everything feels foreign. Your swing is all over the place. You don't know where the ball is going to go with each and every swing. Is there something that you have in your arsenal that can just get your ball moving forward? And for me, I have what I call it a bunt. Now, obviously, I'm not actually bunting the ball. We all know what a bunt is in baseball. But I call it a bunt. And what I do is when I'm in trouble, when I'm playing not well, or I need to get out of trouble and just put the ball in play, I do what I call my bunt swing. And that's just where I stand with my feet closer together, and I take like a half to maybe 3/4 swing, and I just put some smooth on it, and it usually is a nice little butter cut. And yeah, I sacrifice some yardage, but honestly, not that much. At the end of the day, it's not that much. Might be 10 or 15 yards, depending on the club, but I can pretty reliably hit my bunt and put it right down the middle of the fairway. And I will do that more often than not, even when I'm playing well. Sometimes you get to a shot, even if you're having the best day of your life, you might get on a certain hole and have a certain shot. And for those of us that have been playing for a long time, sometimes you get behind the ball and the shot that you have just does not feel like it sets up well for you. Like, maybe you need to not go maybe there's water left up by the green and you're not feeling 100% confident at that moment in time. It just doesn't set up well to your eye. So we all have that go-to shot. So whether I'm playing bad or sometimes when I'm playing good, I'll hit my little bunt shot and knock it down there and, hit it and go get it. Keep myself out of trouble. And I bring this up because I've been working with my wife. Sometimes, she's still learning how to hit wedges. Wedges are very hard to hit for beginners, I think. And so sometimes she gets into these weird yardages where she's too close to hit her 7-wood or even a 7-iron, but too far, to maybe swing her pitching wedge. So I've been showing her these little bump and run shots with your fairway woods. Because here's the deal. It doesn't matter what the shot looks like, in my opinion. The scorecard doesn't say you got a 4, but you rolled the ball down the fairway on your third shot. It just says 4. So who gives a shit? Play the confident shot. I've been working with her and showing her, like, when you're 60, 70, 80 yards out, and like the course, our home course, Riverfront Golf Club in Suffolk, Virginia, a lot of the fairways run into the front of the green. Like, there's rough around the greens, but generally right up the mouth where the green is, a lot of the holes are designed where the fairway runs all the way up to the green. So you can hit a lot of bump and run link style shots into these greens. So I've been showing her, right? You can take your 7-wood or your 3-wood or whatever you're comfortable with, and basically you hit like an exaggerated, I tell her it's like an exaggerated putting stroke. And, it'll chip the ball about 5-10 yards in the air, maybe 15, and then it just runs and rolls the rest of the way. And if you learn how to hit that shot, the more you do it, the more you get better at distance control. That can be an absolute deadly weapon in your golf game. Not to mention, there's days where I've played around here where you're playing into you're playing into a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and you're 80, 90 yards away. You're not getting a wedge there. You might, but there's so much room for error once that ball gets up in the air. Why not just take out a 7-wood or 4-iron, whatever you want to use, and just bunt one down there, let it run on the ground under the wind, and get up on the green and give yourself a putt. So we've been working on that, and she's getting better at it every time. And, she's learning that if you control the club face, keep the club face square like a putter, you'll avoid the trouble around the greens. If you let that club face get open, you might squirt right into a bunker or something. But it's a deadly weapon, and I hope she continues to use it, because she's getting good at it. But anyways, that's my go-to shot, the bunt. And I'm curious as to know, what is your all's? Some people will tee the ball lower with their driver and have the ability to just hit the ball lower and keep it in play. Some people know how to hit like a controlled hook, so to speak, which is crazy. I wish I could. I really wish I could. Hogan played like a low hook. I wish I could do that. But I'm curious as to know what your all's go-to shot is. But anyways, I think that's it. I'm going to get out of here now. One last thing. I have to pay a debt. So this will be a real test to see if my buddy listens to the whole podcast. One of my good friends, Doug, he is a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. And we were out last Wednesday night before the game, and I told him that if somehow, some way, the worst happened, and by worst, I mean the Eagles lost, that I would come on this podcast and I would own it. So, this is me telling you, Doug, good game. You guys were the better team on Sunday. You deserved that win. And I can't argue it. The only thing I'll say is I would rather Dallas have beat us 60-0. Just come out from the kickoff and just whooped our asses. I would rather have watched that than for us to blow a 21-point lead. Painful to watch. But there you have it. This is me telling you, good job, buddy. You got us. As usual, we split the season series 1-1. We won at home. You won at home. Tends to work out like that. Hopefully we don't see you again. Nothing personal. I hope the Cowboys don't win another game, because I really don't want for you guys to somehow go on a roll, catch a wild card spot, and we see you in the playoffs. I just don't think that would end well. But good win, and I'm going to leave it at that. So that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We talked about mainly the Philadelphia Eagles, but it is what it is. It's my podcast. Again, I know I said last week I might introduce the dude. I decided to hold off on that for a while, but he will be coming on at some point. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, please like, follow, subscribe, comment anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. That's how we grow. It helps out the channel a lot, and I greatly appreciate your support. And I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Be safe. Don't fry frozen turkeys. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the food. If you drink responsibly. Have a ride. And until next time, send it.